I'm just going to go ahead and introduce our speakers. So thank you very much, everyone, for tuning into this week's webinar. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Stephanie Fox from the Network One, and I'll be moderating today. We've also got Julian Boulding on the call, and he's available to help. So just some housekeeping before I introduce our speakers. I'll do a 5-minute introduction now. Our speakers will talk for about 35 minutes. We'll then have a 15-minute Q&A, and so the main session will be finished by about 12 o'clock London time. If you have any questions for our speakers, just send them by clicking the Q&A box at the bottom of the screen, and we will address them after the presentation. We are currently recording the webinar, so there's no need to take notes if you would prefer not to. Thank you very much. So now I'm very pleased to introduce our speakers, Laurent Ashendon and Salome Ashendon. So as founder and managing director of Voxia Communications, a PRWA member agency, Laurent Ashendon brings more than 30 years of experience to his clients and collaborators. Based in Switzerland, Voxia Communications has developed a series of serious escape games with specialist partners. So today, Laurent and Salome will present Amaze. They'll explain how agencies can include these games in their range of services to expand their relationship with existing clients or pitch new prospects with a unique proposition. So without further ado, I will now turn over to Laurent and Salome.
Yes, thank you very much, Stephanie. And thank you for all of you listening this webinar. Voxia Communication has always been very concerned with the integration of ESG criteria, both as a company, but also for our clients. As a matter of fact, our tagline is building sustainable reputations. We believe that companies must play a role in the positive transformation of society. So we also realize that when sustainability issues are being discussed in a company, they're often tackled by a dedicated group who will come up with recommendations or initiatives, and they expect them to trickle down to collaborators. At the end of the day, we all know that there's very few people who are going to read a company's section on sustainability issues or a separate annual report, sustainable report. So we believe the best way to disseminate information while keeping people's attention is through gamification. This was our starting point. Together with the leading experts in Europe in companies' positive transformation and the world leader in the development of digital escape games, we've developed a couple of serious games addressing the issues of various industries. Our experts then, with their knowledge of all those sectors, write the script, and the developer designs the scenes, the quiz, and develops the navigation. We think it's the best way to address sustainability issues and communicate companies' values to the greater number of employees and collaborators. So far, 2 games have been developed in the luxury sector and in consumption agribusiness. They can both be seen as a starting point or part of a chain of action for a company that wishes to integrate collaborators in a process towards being more sensitive to sustainability issues and to inform them of the efforts made by the company and its values. Hence, we believe for a maximum impact, the company should accompany the launch of the game, for instance, including a CEO's message before starting the game, or consider to organize workshops after the game to deepen the knowledge and create a positive exchange. With these 2 games, we want to show, first of all, that we have a ready-to-play game, but also we want to show our capacity to personalize the escape games with company logos or by adding new scenes. We also want to show that we can develop tailor-made escape games for companies that want to base the game on their own script and design. So not only the game informs collaborators with its positive impact, but we feel, and what we receive, the feedback, is that it emphasizes and creates a unique and profitable interaction internally, and also with the message contained, it helps retain and attract new talents. With this, I'll pass over to Salome, who will give you a couple of details before starting the game. We'll go through the game, and then I'll be available for a Q&A session. Up to you, Salome.
Thank you very much. So I'm very pleased to be introducing our two games today. The first one is called Diamondo, and it focuses on the luxury and diamond industry. Diamondo is particularly niche in the sense that it focuses on the ecological and sustainable problematics of mining diamonds in comparison to lab-grown diamonds. So it is quite a niche game that we like to propose usually to companies who focus on this sort of industry. In comparison, we have Agrimondo, which is the game that we'll be playing today, which discusses the various sustainable problematics of how the process of producing ingredients or products and the process of receiving it on our table, and how we eat it, and the way that we buy it in the supermarket, and basically the entire process of how it comes from the field to our table. And this, in comparison to Diamondo, is a game that really kind of is impacting more and more people in this generation. We're way more focused or way more interested in finding out how that food that we're eating or that is in front of us came about, and how it was, farmed, how it was transported, and how it appeared today in our supermarkets and in our kitchens. So this is the one that we'll be playing today. The way that our series games can be played are in two different modes. There's a solo player and a multiplayer. Today I'll be playing in solo player, and I'll be sharing my screen. But we can also play in multiplayer, which allows up to 6 players at the same time on one game. When we play as a multiplayer, the interesting thing is that we can help each other throughout the game in case someone is stuck in a scene or has a problem getting through to an enigma. They can easily just ask their colleagues to help them out. So, for instance, we also have a map at the top of our screen, which allows us during the game to notice where our colleagues are within the game, which means that, for instance, if Laurent is in one of the scenes that I've already passed, he can easily ask me, okay, Salome, do you mind helping me with this one? I cannot figure it out, and I can easily help him. So the interesting thing about the different modes of playing this game is that obviously the solo player, I believe, is something that focuses much more on the knowledge and the information that is being brought up. And people who play in solo player are more inclined to read every single pop-up and every single piece of information. So therefore it becomes more of a game of knowledge. And in comparison, the multiplayer mode really promotes competitivity, it promotes team building, and it's just really a great way to kind of also socialize with your colleagues while you're playing, fun game. Finally, what we do at the end of the game is that we like to promote our workshops to make sure that the knowledge that you've acquired during the games is still very much there. And we also propose a takeaway, which is in the shape of a PDF file, where basically instead of going through the game again, you can make sure that you've understood everything, and then the main points and the main topics that were discussed throughout the game are easily understood. So instead of going back throughout the entire game, you can just refer yourself to this PDF form. Finally, what we've noticed the results and the impact of our game is basically the following. So we've noticed that our collaborators feel very much integrated, and they understand much better the values of their employer and the challenges of the industry that they're in. The second result that we've noticed is the fact that the stakeholders and clients do finally get a positive image of their company, considering that they're noticing that their company is making a step forward towards a more sustainable future for themselves and for their industry. Finally, fosters group-wide emulation around the topic in the company. And the last point that I want to discuss is the idea to participate to convey a positive image of the industry and the company. Nowadays, companies are extremely focused on presenting themselves as a sustainable company and within a sustainable industry. And we're more and more focused on having some sort of signature that is a green signature. And so the idea is basically to allow and help our clients navigate through that and really establish themselves as more sustainable each day. So this is it for me. I will be sharing my screen, and I will also turn off my camera to avoid any sort of chaos. And I will also ask that everyone mutes themselves, and we'll be taking in questions at the end of the session. All right, so the way that the game works is the following. There we go. So it starts on this website, on our website, where you will be given a link and a company code. So in this case, the company code is this one. It's just a random set of 4 letters. That doesn't mean anything. So we start with this, and then we enter, and we have to put our unit name. So in my case, it's going to be Salome. Then I move forward. So in this case, they propose either solo player or multiplayer. In my case, I'll choose solo player. And then you have a set of instructions. So it shows you that you have a timer at the top left, you have the progress bar at the bottom left, you have the left and right arrows, which help you navigate through the scene, which you can also actually, by using your mouse, you can easily, navigate through the scene as well. You have the help button, and you'll also have the volume, the sound, which you can usually turn on and off during the game. So in my case, I'll let you hear it for a second, just so you have an idea of how the feel for the game is. So it's giving us a little bit of a narrative. So now I'll turn off the music, so it's less chaotic. So we're meeting a multi-generational family that is getting ready to have dinner. But more and more, there's small parts of their meals that are starting to disappear. So we have this interesting man that walks through a portal and is coming from the future. So he's advising us to basically be more concerned with the way that we do things nowadays. So now we're gonna find the 6 missing parts of our dinner so we can make positive changes in our lives. So we're meeting this man. He's asking us to recover the missing items in order to embark on a journey. The missing parts are the ones of a battery pack, so we can travel to a better future. Basically, it's advising us to find these battery packs in order to understand the challenges that we're facing today and avoid making future mistakes. So each time you acknowledge an important message and recover the right object, you will be transported back to this dimension. where you can hand me the battery that you found. All right, so let's continue. All right, so click on the glass of water before it disappears. So you won't see it on your screen as I'm sharing mine, but on my screen, every single time we're asked to click on something, you will have a small scintillating thing showing up on the object that you're supposed to click on. So once again, you won't see it, but if you do play the game on your computer, you will see it right away. So we've entered the aquarium, a place of unbelievable wonders and knowledge, to find the missing glass of water. Okay, so let's enter the aquarium. So now we have clearly 3 options, and I imagine 3 questions. So how much water do you need for 100 grams of lentils? Based on the numbers that I was given, 140, 600, and 1,500 liters, I imagine from my common knowledge, 1,500 liters seems to be for something beefy or meat related. So I've read, or I've been told, that you need a lot of water to to produce meat. So for example, I'll start with the first one, and I'll put 600 liters. Okay, so that was correct. You need 600 liters of water to produce 100 grams of lentils. Oh, there we go. So I've just answered my own question. How much water do you need for 100 grams of beef? I'll put in 1,500. Perfect. So obviously, if you do answer falsely, there will be a pop-up message, an error pop-up message, which will tell you to consider maybe something else. How much water do you need for a cup of coffee? It's 140 liters. The resources consumed along the full life cycle of a product are often not visible in the final product. So it's very interesting to see how much we need to produce, things that we encounter every day. A cup of coffee, a steak, a bowl of lentils. Very interesting. So before we enter the aquarium, we have to drag and drop each percentage into its correct position. All right, so these are our percentage. It's a very simple, just drag and drop problematic. So we have global greenhouse gas emissions is caused by food. All right, I believe it is 26. All right. So if I make a mistake, usually, there we go, so try again with another percentage. So 70% of global freshwater withdrawals are used for agriculture. 94%, I believe, is of mammal biomass, is livestock. Okay, and then 70% of global ocean and freshwater eutrophication is caused by agriculture. Okay, so now we've entered the aquarium, finally. Now we've entered the aquarium, and we will find a lot of plastic waste. So they're asking us to click on the plastic tab. So once again, you can use the arrows on each side to navigate the scene. There we go. Or you can also click on the screen and just drag it from each side. That's so. So let's find the bottles of water. Oh, there it is. Okay, so let's see. We found the plastic waterfall, and it looks like some parts of it have fallen off. So now we have to find the 5 missing bottles in the aquarium. All right. So if I just look at the screen, I see one over here, another one here. So this is, quite simple, but it gets us to the following scene. Oh, there we go. 5. Okay, so we've cleaned the aquarium now. Fantastic. Now we have to find the map next to the aquarium, and apparently it will shed some light. All right, so these, I think it can be said that these are odd-looking fish. So clearly they are different sizes. They have, interesting drawings on them. So once again, you're not seeing it probably because I'm sharing my screen once again. But there is a scintillating feature that tells me that I have to click on the computer. So here it says that between 1950 and 2015, an estimated 4,900 million metric tons of plastic waste was thrown away globally. Although plastic degrades very slowly in the environment, it often gets broken down to smaller pieces, called microplastic. Gosh, I was already worried about plastic, and now I have to worry about microplastic. So now you must be wondering where your glass of water is. Rank these 7 regions from the largest to the least amount of plastic dumped in the oceans annually. A closer look at the fish looking like flags might be helpful. The pop-ups will always try to give you some information as to help you, answer some of the questions. So obviously right here, I am not sure that I can answer everything properly, but the good thing is that I can go back with this arrow at the top right. I can easily go back to the scene before and look at the fish again. So what I'll do is I see that clearly. So we have China, we have India, we have South Africa, New Zealand, Brazil, Europe, and I mean, listen, I'll just, go by elimination. I don't even know what that looks like. It's so small. Okay, so we go back to the pop-ups, and so we'll put China first, and then we'll put India. Oh, right, it was the US, the last one. Okay, so now we have New Zealand, Brazil, and at any time you can just go back to the previous scene just to make sure that you got it right. Okay, and then finally the US. Great. So now we get our glass of water back. Great, so that was the first step and the first scene to Agromondo. So did you know that microplastics don't always come from the breakdown of larger plastic items? Indeed, between 15 and 31% of the plastics found in oceans are primarily microplastics coming from cosmetics, textiles, and tire use. That's very interesting to learn. Okay, so now that we've recovered the missing glass, we need to click on the can of soup. All right, so again, scintillating feature that I see on my screen. So we've entered the museum. So we're going to learn about eco-design and how to improve that. So why don't we start by learning a few interesting facts? We need to place the missing words in the appropriate place. All right. And a little bit of information: the smaller the volume of the packaging, the greater the relevance of its impact. So we're entering the museum. We need to click on the 4 packagings, which will tell us more about eco-design. All right. So once again, scintillating feature here that pops up. So I'm going to click on that. So which packaging is best suited to your strategy of designing a low-impact packaging? Easy to handle at end of life. Examine the 4 packaging options carefully and place them in order from best to worst in terms of environmental impact. But they're also telling us that we need to look at the works of art around us, and that will give us some insightful information. Nowadays, I mean, we really have an issue. I mean, everybody's talking about how they can, better their eco-design and packaging. So it will be interesting to learn more about it. The first work of art, it tells us that for liquids such as beer, wine, soup, juice, and water, the environmental impact of the packaging is proportionally much more important. So we need to pay attention to the packaging thickness, weight, and origin. All right. The second one is over here. That a container made with non-recycled material usually has greater impact on the environment than one made partially or fully with recycled material. Okay, so the third work of art, business models favoring the reuse of packaging are generally interesting from a sustainability point of view. Okay, so now we've found the 3 works of art, and we have to classify the 4 packaging. All right, let's do it. So to do so, click on each packaging and its corresponding space on the podium. So this is the podium, and these are the 4 packagings. They've asked us to click on the 4 packaging, so that's what I'll do. So based on what I know, what I've understood is that unique usage in these 3 situations is definitely not the greatest option, but at least these two are recycled. So I'll definitely put the glass as a unique usage in last position. Once again, if you make a mistake, it will usually, exactly, there we go. So it will come up with a pop-up that says, oh, try again. While producing aluminum from ore is energy intensive, aluminum cans are easy to carry and recycle. The light rate and high rate of recycling makes aluminum cans highly competitive as a packaging option. All right, so I believe that the recycled glass multiple usages in first place. I'm going to put the tin between the recycled tin and the recycled aluminum. I mean, they're pretty close. I believe they're both recycled and they're both unique usage. So congratulations, you ordered these 4 materials correctly. Look at the following graphic that provides the comparative environmental impact of the 4 packaging materials you just examined. All right, so let's do. All right, so that's interesting. So it gives you more information on each packaging. Now, once again, I always try to look for the scintillating feature, which will help me kind of figure out my next step in the game. Really is a little bit like a physical escape room where you are not necessarily instructed what to do. So you have to kind of figure it out within the room and kind of look around and see what else is there to do. Okay, so now we have some sort of calculator with a code that we have to put in. So if I put just random code, it's not going to let me get forward. Okay, this is not the right code. Try again. All right, but it also says the numbers and colors on the wall might help me find my way to a secret room. All right, so once again, I use the arrow to go back to the previous room, and what I can see here is that Mondrian looking wall. Okay, so we have the various colors. If I remember correctly, so we have the C is in blue, we have O is in yellow, D is in black, and E is in red. Okay, so blue, yellow, black, and red. So blue, yellow, black, and red. So 2, 5, 6, 1. Okay, so this is what I'll put in. There we go. Okay, we've unlocked the door. Fantastic. So now we can move on to the following scene. We have finally found the heart of this exhibit, the wall of cans. The can we are searching is under this crystal cloth. To reveal it, you must find the differences between your can and all the others on the wall. Okay, so I have to find the cans on the wall that do not look the same as the one in the middle. It is basically just a game of not Pictionary, sorry, of memory, as maybe some of you used to play. So what I can see is that this one, for example, it says tomato, but it's not written in red. So that is a good one. Just because the plastic is biosourced does not mean it's biodegradable. All right. And then what else do I see? This one does not have the same little design on the little stick that is in the middle. Be careful for packaging material to be successfully recycled. It should be compatible with existing waste collection systems and commercial recycling technologies. Every single time I click on a new one, it gives me more information about how to really properly pick a eco design. I also see here that this one does not have the stars at the bottom, so I'm going to click on that. So when eco designing, it is essential to have a life cycle, that was a typo, life cycle based thinking, and to take into consideration the required functionalities and the regional context. Okay, and then I have to find 4. So the 4th one is going to be this one. That was the hardest for sure. So this one is missing that gold line at the top. I don't know how well you guys can see that, but I'm sharing my screen, but it is definitely there. Now, the main issue with single-use plastic packaging is its uncontrolled accumulation in nature once the food is consumed. In fact, about 2/3 of all waste produced on Earth is still accumulated in dump sites and landfills. Okay, so now we've gotten the can of soup back. The facts on eco-design that you have learned will help you realize how you should take a life cycle approach to a product and its packaging to ensure that your impact on the environment is minimized. All right, now we're being very pressed by the guy from the future who's asking us to click on the piece of meat. All right, so where's the piece of meat on the table? Oh, this is it. There we go. We have come to this farm to look for a famous piece of meat that has gone missing. How will we feed the world population in the future? And now they're telling us a little bit about the increase in global demand and soil health and what is the best way to kind of really, how to really start practicing some alternative or supplementary practices such as urban or regenerative agriculture. So if the piece of meat has disappeared, it is probably linked with the agricultural system they used to bring it to your table. So now we have to resolve the jumbled up pipelines to order 5 parcels of land. Okay, so that's what we'll do. So one thing that I've noticed in this game that maybe, obviously, this is not too difficult of a task, but one thing that I have noticed is that if you look at the various routes, you see that there is clearly, a line that shows the different lights on the tube. So keep in mind that you have to kind of follow that. See, so for example, obviously this pink tube could also be upside down, but it wouldn't make sense. So basically, I have to make sure these are all properly connected. Okay, so now that's one done. One key principle of regenerative agriculture: keep the soil surface covered so that it can effectively absorb nutrients. Okay, on to the next one. There we go. I'm sure it's not as fun for you guys as it is for me, but I'll try to do it as quickly as possible. But allow fallow land and rotational cultures so the nutrients in the soil can be regenerated. Now, the third one. Okay. There we go. Okay, that's done. Fantastic. Bring grazing animals back to the land to benefit from the dung and natural settling of organic matter. Fourth and second to last one. All right. There we are. Okay, so that's done. Keep leaving roots in soil and avoid disturbing it so that the soil becomes resilient and nutrient rich. And now on to the very last one. Okay. Close enough. There we go. Grow a diverse range of crops to ensure diversity in the use of soil nutrients. Through better farming principles, you can enrich the soil, improve watersheds, increase biodiversity, and enhance ecosystem services. Remember, the soil is the most valuable asset of farming. If we take care of our soil, it will take care of us. Right back at you, indeed. Now that you understand the 5 principles of regenerative agriculture, let's see if you realize how many square feet you will actually need to produce food. Okay, let's see that. So, as we've seen before a little bit, for any sort of meat, we've realized that we need quite a lot. So I'm going to place this little guy over here, and I'm going to place the pig on 55 square meters. Then I believe the last 3 or the first 3, depending on how you see it, are probably the hardest. So this is supposed to be an egg. What is an egg? And then I'm going to place it here. The bread I'm going to put right here. Once again, it really is just a click and drop or click and just drag. So it shouldn't be too difficult. So I believe that this is my final answer. I'm going to click on OK. Oh, great. Congratulations. You got them all. They have found the missing piece of meat and one more part of my battery pack. Here's another fact to take back with you. To produce 1 kilo of beef, it takes on average 20 times more soil surface than to produce 1 kilo of pasta. In general, the production of animal proteins is very resource intensive, both in terms of soil and inputs. Great. So now we have to look for the chocolate bar. So now we've entered the third scene, I believe. We're in the chocolate plantation, where we're asked to pick up the cocoa beans. So very similarly to what we did in the aquarium, where we had to pick up the missing bottles, the plastic bottles. So, okay, this I see this one, and there are the following two. Okay, fantastic. So congratulations, you've made your very own golden chocolate bar. Making this golden bar required efforts from many actors of the value chain. Can you guess what share of the earnings from the chocolate bar went to each of the actors standing in front of you? Click on plus or minus to decide how many squares of the golden bar each actor receives. Okay, so let's see. So we have the farmer, we have the trader, we have the manufacturer, and then we have the retailer. So I'm going to, you can easily just click on plus or minus to decide which share they should be getting from these golden chocolate bars. So I believe we're going to put 4 here, 4 here. I'll keep 2 and 2. Yes. Okay. There we go. So it's quite approximate. You discover the reality of value distribution between the different actors. So these percentages I find quite interesting, actually, because I would think that the trader, generally, I would think that the trader would get more. But he actually doesn't. So 7.7 for the farmer, 5.3 for the trader, and the same percentage 41.4 for the finished product manufacturer and the retailer. All right. So now, which of these is, according to you, the biggest challenge when it comes to food value chains? All right. So in here, there isn't actually a bad answer. So it's more about knowledge or information. So here we're reading about transparency, and globally around 70% of child labor occurs in food value chains. And now here we're talking about, low salary, long working hours, physical abuse, this sort of thing. Over here, we're talking about responsible sourcing. That is indeed an important topic. Globally, uncaring sourcing has been in practice for decades, leading to deforestation and social inequalities across the world. Interesting. And then finally, consumer satisfaction. Eating healthy and consciously helps not only the consumers, but also the planet. This is a global marketing and sustainable challenge. So once again, they're asking us, which of these is, according to you, the biggest challenge when it comes to food value chain? Once again, no bad answers. I can pick actually whatever path I choose, and they're all pretty good answers. So question number 2, responsible business practices and sustainable farming methods are key in improving farmer livelihoods. Which one of these labels certification would you recommend? So we have we have the fair trade label that ensures that premium is paid to farmers. Then we have the Rainforest Alliance label that promotes trainings and knowledge sharing to help farmers access markets to increase their yields and long-term productivity. And finally, we have organic agriculture with other associated labels that can help strengthen livelihoods by enhancing soil fertility and resilience to food production. Once again,
let me just interfere.
Yes?
We have 5 minutes left for the presentation. What I suggest is you move fast so everyone can see the end of the game, maybe. So you have 5 minutes ahead of you.
Yeah, no worries. So this is basically quite a lot of information that I do urge you to take the time to read if you can. We're now asked to click on the banana peel, and we're joining something called Wasteland, which is an amusement park. So now they're asking us to find the 2 avoidable food waste that must be avoided. Apologies for rushing, but I'll try to make it as brief as possible. So Two avoidable food waste I find are unsold food, which we love to judge by appearance when we buy at the supermarket. And the second one, I believe, is meal leftover. And it's telling us that if we can't finish everything we've prepared, try freezing the leftovers. Great. So once again, sorry guys, I dwelled on quite a few things. So I'm going to try and make this as brief as possible. So now we have these brewer's grains that we have to carry into the different rides to see what it does. Good, instead of, just throwing it away. A good answer, you will get a protein powder and a residual as output. So we want to avoid incinerating it. So I'll put it on the roller coaster of nutrients. Oh, no, wrong. My gosh. So I'll put it on the carousel of energy. There we go. Okay, all good. And then finally, I'll put it on, that is, I think, the last step is putting it on the roller coaster of nutrients. There we go. Great. So we should never forget that such co-products are also great means of returning sufficient nutrients back to the soil. All right, I'm asked to click on the egg. So that is our last scene, actually. So who has the biggest climate change impact on society? So in here, it's, well, so the first one, I believe the highest percentage is farm production. Farming production phase, where the animal vegetable largely dominates the environmental impacts of the agro-food supply chain. Obviously, then we have 5%, 7%, and 8%, which are pretty close together. But since we're in a rush, I'll just make sure to answer it properly. So for dry food, the impact of climate change of the packaging is generally below 10% of the entire climate change impact. Finally, we have 5% here. Again, it's a click and drop. If carried out by sea or by land, the transport of food contributes to about 5% of the climate change impact of the full supply chain. And finally, in transformation, I put 8%. Contrary to what many people think, the agri-food processing phase usually represents only 5 to 15% of the climate change impact of the full supply chain. They're asking us now to choose a mode of transport. If you have been paying attention at all, you will probably answer this question correctly. The sustainable way is obviously by boat. So transport by water usually emits the least CO2 in comparison to plane. So this is a much more, honestly, this is probably not the most fun part of the game for you. You just simply use the arrows either on the side or on your keyboard to just pass through and avoid any sort of, altercation. Insert the battery cells. Okay. Sorry for skipping all of this and trying to make this as brief as possible. So I'm asked to put the battery cells all together to create one big one. Great. Thank you so much. I always knew that I could trust my own family. And now that we figured out everything about the game, we've also figured out that this man who has been accompanying us this entire time is actually us, but just 30 years older. So he's come to us to let us know that we need to make some serious changes about the way that we, produce, eat, and live, just in general. So you have to understand how important today's actions are and how they can affect our future. We need to take care of ourselves and our planet, and this has to start now. We can all reduce our impact if we decide to. Thank you very much for playing. Thank you, guys. Thank you for being here. And now we have the very final scene where our future us disappears into the abyss, and we go back to a better world. Great. Okay, so now you see that we have a final image that shows us that we can rate the game, we can leave a comment. And obviously, if you are playing with your colleagues, the fun thing here is to make it into a competitive little game in which you can see who finished first. So, yeah, thank you very much.
Thank you, Salome. So the last image you have will we're going to have a full back office, which means that the company can see also the time spent by each of the players, where they were stuck, the information they got, which will facilitate the eventual workshop, which will be organized by the company. So it's also a source of information for the company to see what was the evolution and the knowledge acquired. There I am, and maybe Stephanie, if you want to take over and open up a discussion.
Yes, thank you so much for that. That was brilliant. It was really interesting, and I think we're all looking forward to trying it out ourselves. So we've had a few questions from the audience. Dylan New said, "What is the recommended target audience for the Agromondo game?"
So, contrary to the Diamondo, we've realized that practically everyone is interested. It's not only for the agri-food industry, but anyone that cares about consumption and want to show its value. For example, we had a company yesterday who discussed is into the placement industry, and they said that we care internally about how people eat and how they consume. So we want to have this game. So practically anyone, obviously we would target immediately the agribusiness, but even more so, it's pretty generic.
Great, thank you. So another question we've had from the chat is, sorry, open here. Can the game be more competitive in solo player mode? For example, an average time to complete the game, or a record time, or instead of time, the fewest number of errors?
Errors, I mean, everything can be done. I think as a solo, we realize that it's a question of generation. If you're 25 or 35 years old, I mean, all of those games will appear to you to be pretty obvious. So a younger person will prefer to play solo, most probably, than a group of people of slightly older who will appreciate the fact that they can be assisted by others, that there's a team building exercise into it. But on both sides, you can definitely play it as a game and as a competition. And the idea would be whoever finishes first and obviously fills in correctly the takeaway would gain something. So yes, we should turn this into a competition, definitely.
If I may say something, the way that I've really looked at the different pitches that we've done and the way that each person kind of navigates through the game is that we've had, as Laurent has said, we've had people of all ages and of all backgrounds. So we've had people who are, specialists or very passionate about digital games or escape rooms. So those people, for example, have performed extremely well. I've also had a couple of guys during a pitch who decided that it was extremely important for them to win and not the other. So it was a constant fight of who was going to get there first. And then we also have people of, a later generation who have taken more of their time to read everything and to kind of, assimilate all the information that they read. So it really is, you can play it as you wish, and you can live it the way that you want to, and just as long as you take away something at the end of the day, that's the most important thing. But obviously that the competitiveness side is obviously important for anyone.
So the way we sell it under the form of licenses, which means that the company that buy licenses can first take all its time to start the game, and the players can play the game anytime they wish. It's web-based. You create your own group of 2, 3, 5, 6 people, and then you decide to play at 5 o'clock on the afternoon, on the Friday afternoon, for example, or some other time. So it's pretty flexible, and that's also the interest. Obviously, what we have not talked about, but you did touch upon that, Stephanie. We are talking to companies here, but we're talking to agencies. We believe that it is essential for agencies to have this game in their range of offer. 2 reasons. First of all, we have clients and we like to try to increase depth in the relationship with our clients, which means that our existing client, we can present this as an additional offer to our services. But also, it's an extraordinary way to open up doors with prospects that, you know, sustainability is today, it's a momentum, it's a trend. You cannot not talk about it those days. So the idea also is, if you've you know, if you you've found a number of companies that you would love to work with in certain industries, then you identify them and you offer them the game. So it's a perfect door opener, if you will, in a conversation that can lead you to something totally different, as a matter of fact. But they will have an interest, and they will feel that you have a tech approach, you have a sustainability approach, and you have a fun approach.
Perfect. Thank you very much. That's super helpful. So we've had another question through, and someone has said, if stakeholders, for example, employees, are required to participate in a game, can they be marked by how many answers they get right and then get a certificate for a good score, or be asked to play the game again if their score is below average?
It is honestly anything up to the company. The company can, as I said, which I feel makes a lot of sense, prepare a CEO statement to start with, just to, you know, again, to state where the company's values are. Then they can play it into a game. They can force or not force people to play into it. They can deliver a certificate. But above all, people will be on the level playing field, and everyone in the company, you know, we were talking to a company in the watch industry. Obviously, the people that work as a salesperson in a shop, or someone who drives the lorry, or someone who is on the watches, doesn't have the same level of knowledge. And this also is interesting. How can you put together everyone into the same level playing understanding and knowledge on a topic? Otherwise, they would never meet each other. They would never talk about things which they have in common, because they have so different jobs.
Yeah, in fact, that's one of the things that I'd like to mention, is about the different ways in which you can use and utilize this game. So the way that we've seen how our clients and the people that we've pitched to is separates the way that they could use it in 3 different ways. So we can offer the game to current employees to make sure that everybody is on the same page in regards to their knowledge of sustainability and how sustainable their industry is. Another way could be for new employees, as a way of, you know, a step before they get into the company, to make them go through this game, to make sure that, once again, they are on the same page as everyone else in terms of, again, how sustainable their industry is. And finally, another thing that was, you know, mentioned to us by during one of our pitches was the idea of using it as any office does. They have an office day out, where either you go and do an activity or you go out and drink, as we like to do here in the UK. And that would be a really good way as well, not only to, you know, have some sort of team building, but also in socializing, because obviously you can talk to each other and see each other during the game. But it's also a great way of learning something in a, you know, fun way, instead of just, you know, reading paper after paper. And in regards to the question that was asked, one of the things that I've forgotten to mention is that since we have these 2 games, we have created sort of template in which, if you would like us to personalize the game in any sort of way, that is something that we can easily do. if you ask for the game to be in a different language, that will take us just a couple of weeks because the template is there. And all we have to do is just simply translate the script and make sure that it fits properly. So if you're asking for a certificate or a diploma, that is definitely something that we can have added at the end of the game, alongside with an array of other different editions. So yeah.
Thank you. I think we've got time for one more question. So last question, if you had created this game in response to a request from a commercial client, what kind of cost would be involved?
That's a very good question. The game for us has a cost of roughly 75 to 100,000 pounds, or in euros, it would be 100,000 euros. So obviously, the way for us is to sell it to a number of companies. If a company needed to have a game which is developed on his own design and script, that would be the cost. Now, obviously, we plan to sell it to a number of people, particularly the agribusiness and any other games. Tomorrow, we could do a game on, for example, fast fashion. Fast fashion, and I'm sure a lot of people will be interested. The fast fashion is a disaster. The material which is being used, the revolving fashion that needs to be produced, the packaging. Zalando, for example, is obviously a big issue, which you see packages everywhere. We can do cybersecurity as well. So all those games will be not used by one person, but definitely be used by a number of companies. So the price for the game would be anything between, I would say, it depends if it's an unlimited number of licenses or a limited number of licenses. And then we have two models, the unlimited, and that would be anything between 20 and 40,000 euros. That would be the price of the game. And if it would be a limited number of licenses, then it all depends on the type of companies. But obviously, it's something that we can discuss. The point here and the take here is that it is pretty expensive. It's expensive. The developer has spent hundreds of hours on writing a script and creating the stories. And obviously the the script behind it is a real specialist in order to understand the issues and the challenges of the particular industry or subsector that you're in, to understand what we need to talk about. So there's a lot of work to be done behind it to create the one game, which then will be sold to one client or a number of clients.
Perfect. Thank you so much. All right, that was brilliant. I'm now going to just share your contact details on the screen. I know that some people might have some follow-up questions or want to learn more about the different games. So if you would like to contact Laurent to find out more, please do email at laurent.ashenden, ASHENDEN @voxia.ch. So, excuse me, I'd like to give a really big thank you to Laurent and Salome for that great webinar. And thank you all for coming. We really hope you enjoyed it. And if you'd like to be the first to know about any upcoming webinars, please email me, stephanie.fox@thenetwork1.com, to be added to our mailing list. So thank you all very much and have a fantastic day. And we look forward to seeing you at another webinar soon.
Thank you.